Okay. Alrighty. What the hell is that? Hit that tab. Working. Okay. That's good. Alrighty. Sure, I'm live. Any updates on Twitter? Gotta find that one. Where is it? I can't find it. All right. Anyway. Any immediate updates before we get started? Oh, this is a good infographic. Is this up to date? One base in port. Yeah, we have 2 carrier groups, which amounts to 15 destroyers, 3 command vessels. An attack. Naval assets plus illustrative Tomahawk land attack missile. Loadout. Don't think these are enough missiles, to be honest. Nine squadrons of carrier air wing. I'll get started in a minute. Just want to let people trickle in a little bit before I really dive into it. But I like this. I think this is... What's the source on this? It's kind of low res. U.S. Navy. Just OSINT. Okay. This is like... Can I get a few more pixels? What is going on here? I'm just looking at imminent updates before there's anything pressing. Any breaking news? Because this could happen by this weekend. 2 carrier groups. I think we just sent like 15 more tankers over there over the last 24 or 36 hours. So the logistics are in place. The carrier groups are in place. All the pieces are in place for a significant strike. That's weird. Yeah, I don't think there are any major updates I missed. All right, I guess I'll just get started. I'll start off with this article in the New York Times. I think that gives a pretty good summary. U.S. military moves into place for possible strikes in Iran. President Trump has given no indication that he has made a decision about how to proceed as diplomatic talks continue. The rapid buildup of U.S. forces in the Middle East has progressed to the point that President Trump has the option to take military action against Iran as soon as this weekend. Administration and Pentagon officials said, leaving the White House with high-stakes choices about pursuing diplomacy or war. Mr. Trump has given no indication that he has made a decision about how to proceed, but the drive to assemble a military force capable of striking Iran's nuclear program, its ballistic missiles, and accompanying launch sites has continued this week despite indirect talks between the two nations on Tuesday, with Iran seeking 2 weeks to come back with fleshed-out proposals for a diplomatic resolution. Mr. Trump has repeatedly demanded that Iran give up its nuclear program, including agreeing not to enrich any more uranium. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, whose country would potentially take part in an attack, which, by the way, more on this in a minute, has been pushing for action to weaken Iran's ability to launch missiles at Israel. Israeli forces, which have been on heightened alert for weeks, have been making more preparations for a possible war, and a meeting of Israel's security cabinet was moved to Sunday from Thursday, according to Israeli defense officials. Many administration officials have expressed skepticism about the prospects of reaching a diplomatic deal with Tehran. The indirect talks on Tuesday in Geneva ended with what Iran's foreign minister said was agreement on a set of guiding principles. U.S. officials said the two sides made progress, but added that big gaps remain. What's going on, KF? What's the stated reasoning for fighting another J war again? They didn't fully destroy the nuke capabilities. Yeah, pretty much. That's the stated justification. They want to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities. That's the pretense for all of this. I shouldn't say it's a pretense. It is like a pretext. It's real. Like that is one of their stated objectives. But what they really want is regime change. That's what Israel really wants, because they feel very threatened by having this Muslim identitarian. What would the right term be? I guess an integralist, as in like Islam is integrated in their government. They don't feel comfortable with that kind of government within striking distance of Israel in the region. So the way they see it, Iran is a proximate threat, and they would much rather have like a non-Muslim secular government that for like religious purposes doesn't have as big of a problem with the Jewish state of Israel. So that's why it's not enough that like there's a like non-aggression pact. It's not even enough necessarily that Iran doesn't achieve a nuclear weapon per se. Really, they really do want that regime change. Like, as far as Israel's concerned, nuclear enrichment, or rather uranium enrichment, is like it's an absolute red line. It's something that they cannot allow to happen, because that would balance power in the region. Israel would obviously feel very threatened by having a nuclear power opponent pretty much within, in the same region, within striking distance. As long as Israel has the nukes, they have the cards, they have the leverage. So that's why they don't want Iran to get the nukes. But moreover, they are just this hostile competing power that they want neutralized. So that's really the crux of it. All the pieces are in place, and they have been. Could strike as early as this week. And there's other interesting developments that that might suggest that oh, what's this? Oh, it's a new Nick post that just dropped. Read it. Let's read it live. It might seem absolutely insane that the Trump administration would seriously consider an all-out attack on Iran for the purpose of regime change. Many people have a hard time wrapping their head around this decision or imagining what this looks like. But it would be far more insane and unimaginable for Israel to stop their 2.5-year campaign since October 7th short of their ultimate goal, which is regime change in Iran, especially given the damage they have already inflicted against Iran and its proxy network. Consider each development since October 7th. Israel has effectively defeated Hamas, neutralized Hezbollah, overthrown Assad, and ousted the IRGC from Syria, and buried half of Iran's nuclear complex at Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. It is clear that Israel's ambitious multi-year go-for-broke grand strategy, which has come at a heavy cost, is to rout Iran by systematically disabling its regional proxies, preventing a race to nuclear breakout, and suppressing retaliatory missile capability, all of which clears the way for regime change. At this juncture, Iran is weaker than ever, and with each passing month, they will only reconstitute strength by rearming proxies, manufacturing more missiles, and potentially rebuilding their nuclear program. A grand bargain nuclear deal will result in Iran's political and economic normalization and reintegration into the region. Either Israel will allow this opportunity and all that they have sacrificed to be in vain as the Islamic regime entrenches itself, or they will finish the job and secure total regional hegemony in the Middle East. When you consider this perspective, it seems actually inevitable that Israel will continue to draw the United States into an ultimately decisive confrontation with Iran that will lead to regime change. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. That is their stated goal. And I think that's what a lot of people maybe don't understand, is it's not, a lot of people are against this war for, some of the obvious reasons, like not necessarily like our most pressing matter. All the way on the other side of the world, we have more pressing matters to deal with here in our hemisphere, in the Western hemisphere. Like maybe we should, you could argue Venezuela and Cuba are much more in our interests because they're on our doorstep. Whereas Iran, very far away, logistically, it's quite the hurdle to actually supply and fight a war on the other side of the globe. And the tangible benefits of the war very likely almost assuredly do not match the cost. I mean, this will be a very drawn out, brutal war. Well, actually, let me hang on. It's distracting, actually. This will be much more severe than Iraq, I think. I think just the geography of Iran alone, it's much rockier. The infrastructure is more formidable. Like they've really built up this fortress. The country is built like a fortress. They have all this mountainous terrain. They've been preparing for war for years, and they have a population that's, it's 90 million. It's, what was that, like 3 times roughly the size of Iraq, something like that. And they are industrialized. They're smarter than the Iraqis. They're more competent than the Iraqis. They have more advanced tech. It's not going to be nearly as smooth as Iraq, or at least it's unlikely to be. We're going to face a lot more stiff resistance. So a lot of people are opposed to it for that reason alone, and it's a good reason, don't get me wrong. It's fair to say it's going to cost us a lot of money, and a lot of Americans are going to die for something that's not in our interests. But maybe the unspoken consequence is Israel then becomes the regional hegemon of that arguably some of the most valuable land in the entire world, because you're connecting the 3 continents. And so a lot of trade flows through that region, and overnight Israel will be a contender and certainly a superpower in the region, a nuclear superpower. And that is not in our interests. Not only because Israel's been very hostile to America, undermining our foreign policy, undermining our national interests for the sake of their own, but even if that weren't true, why would we want another contender? Why would we want another nuclear superpower that has hegemony over a region like that? It's actually, just from first principles, it's more beneficial if that region were more divided rather than completely dominated by Israel. And so it's really, it can't be overstated how much this war is very much not in our interests for several reasons. And some people think that the time has passed because the protests have died down. Maybe, but I do think that they're on the clock. And an interesting thing that came to light today is that Congressman Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna will force a vote next week on a bipartisan war powers resolution on Iran. It will be aimed at preventing the executive branch from launching an operation against Iran without congressional approval. So, if that is the case, then it would be, then if that passes, then Trump would no longer have the authority to strike Iran. In which case, if he were to violate that, he could very likely be impeached. So, with that, if that were to pass. However, if Trump already strikes Iran, and Iran has obviously no choice but to retaliate, then we're engaged. We're locked in it. It's happening. Which kind of really makes you believe that, hey, maybe this weekend is it. Maybe this weekend is. Certainly, they're ready to go now, they will be ready to go by the weekend at the earliest. And if it's a race against time, if Massie and Ro Khanna are really trying to pass this bill, then that really might force Trump's hand. But I guess I say all of that, but at the same time, it could also not pass. But that would be really hard for a lot of these congressmen and their political ambitions, because it's going to be on record that they either voted against or abstained from this resolution. Which makes, let's think about this logically. It's fair to say that Democrats would feel the urge, they would feel the incentive to vote in favor of it because it would hurt Trump, because it would kneecap Trump's foreign policy, make him look weak, even if, a lot of them are in the pocket of Israel or the Jewish interest groups. At the same time, their own constituency, liberals in general, are far more anti-Semitic, so to speak, or anti-Israel than the right is in general. So, if I were to make a prediction, you would probably see a lot of Democrats voting for it. And then on the flip side of things, Republicans are in a hard spot because, how can this be the presidency of no new wars and anti-interventionism and a lot of this sort of libertarian rhetoric if they don't condemn or rather prevent this war from happening? So politically, it would be very difficult for a congressperson to vote against it for their own career and for the optics war. But it comes down to what their donors want at that point. But with all that being said, that might force Trump's hand. That might push the strike deadline up earlier rather than later. Now, with all of that in mind as well, we also can't ignore the seventh front that Israel is fighting, and that's the front here in America. You know, with the Paramount Skydance merger and what is rumored, the Paramount Warner Brothers merger that might go through, that would put the largest media conglomerate this country's ever seen directly in the hands of Larry Ellison, billionaire Jewish Zionist Larry Ellison, super Zionist, and that's how Israel is fighting their seventh war. It's their seventh front, which is here in America, the propaganda war, and that's a critical component of that too, right? They want to be able to put their spin on it, to run propaganda. And we'll see if that comes in time for this particular strike. But the rumor is that Trump will not allow Netflix, which is the other competitor, to purchase Warner Brothers. That he's going to axe that and sort of pave the way for Paramount, which would be pretty disastrous. Now, with that being said, if there is war in Iran, that will destroy the GOP. Ostensibly, that will be such an unpopular thing, not only because of the level of discontent at the moment, the discontent with Israel, also the fact that Trump ran on no new wars, but also because, well, it's going to be very expensive and a lot of people are going to die, and they're going to own that. What's the explanation? What's the justification for that war? With that being said, and we've long speculated that this might be the case, is now the time for a potential false flag, because this is going to be wildly unpopular, and everybody knows that, unless you can somehow convince the American public it's a just war, a false flag. Now, where would this false flag occur? I mean, maybe a military base in the region, maybe one of our carrier groups, but I think that's less likely because those are hard targets. They're on alert. They have a lot of surveillance. It'd be a lot harder to conduct a false flag and make it believable. If anything, I think that they would probably do something here in America, hit a soft target, blow up a church, something like that, something dramatic. And I think it would have to be dramatic. It would have to be kind of unprecedented, I think, for people to really be afraid, to really be scared. Because we've seen false flags before. I think a lot of people are kind of tuned out to a lot of the violence, like these sort of isolated incidents of hyper violence. Oh, another shooting. Okay, more at 11. Oh, a bomb went off. Okay, who cares? It would have to be something, I think, unprecedented for it to be effective. And that's scary. So what does that mean? What does that look like? Biological weapons attack? A drone swarm? An infrastructure attack? Can you imagine? A city loses power for like a week or some shit like that? Or the West Coast loses power? And think about who runs, who has access to that kind of infrastructure. Where do we source a lot of the code, a lot of the back-end stuff for the infrastructure in American cities? A lot of it comes from Israeli tech companies, believe it or not. So that's a clear vulnerability that could be exploited. Or they could go maybe something totally bananas. This is probably unrealistic, but to weigh all the options, maybe a small nuke, that they can say was smuggled through Biden's open border, and the Iranians really do have a nuke. They did it in secret. We got to go in now. We got to bomb them now because look, they blew up an American city with a nuke. I don't think, and maybe that's a very low likelihood, but I see that as a possibility. Either way, I don't think that the Israelis, Netanyahu in particular, really wants to torch the Trump administration so quickly. Because, midterms this year, if the GOP loses control of the House and Senate, which they very likely will, it's going to make a lot of things harder for America to accomplish in terms of foreign policy. And I don't think they necessarily want that to be the case because they're running out of time. This Trump administration is backed by Zionists, the Zionist cabal, Miriam Adelson. He was clearly the pick. And so, knowing that they're up against the clock, I don't think they necessarily want to torch the GOP so quickly. And they would want to paint this as somehow a necessity for the Trump administration to bomb Iran for national interests or national security. Maybe they don't care though. So, could be this weekend. Oh, what's up, Smelling? How's it going? Boxing the button up. Let's go. The rest of the California bang. Yeah, where's the rest of them? Bro hasn't been back since Drift Weekend. Yeah, I don't think he made it. I think he crashed. Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing a stream today. I've been busy. Obviously, I went to the liturgy for Ash Wednesday, but yeah, man, it's people are starting to talk about war with Iran finally. And it would be a pretty tumultuous thing. And let's think of some of the consequences with that come with the war in Iran. Certainly, it would probably raise global oil prices. If nothing else, then because the Strait of Hormuz would be inaccessible. That would likely hurt Europe, Russia as well, and by extension, probably China. And that actually might help domestic oil production. If the price of oil goes up, then what do? They increase oil production. Who knows? Maybe we'll see greater imports from Venezuela, for example, of their sour crude oil into Texas. They'll up production much quicker than was originally predicted. If that part of the world, not even just excluding Iran itself, if that part of the world is just inaccessible, think about what that will do to oil prices, just from a logistics standpoint. You passed the certification test at school? W. We up. So, yep. Now, an interesting thing, I don't know if a lot of people know about this. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Or I guess we could finish. Do we want to finish this article? Well, the gist of it is essentially we're ready to go. We're ready to go to war. All the pieces are in place. They're serious. And as far as what is maybe withheld in the Epstein files, any kind of blackmail that is sort of guaranteeing that America works on behalf of Israel. At this point, we can only speculate. Mr. Trump has repeatedly threatened that Iran must meet his terms or face severe consequences, but another attack 8 months after a 12-day war in which Israel and the United States assaulted military nuclear sites across Iran would potentially carry substantial risks, including that Iran would respond with a ferocious barrage of missile strikes on Israel and on the US forces in the region. Now, here's the thing, though. So Israel, they're on high alert. They're on high, like that's today, offensively and defensively. But there's another interesting element to this. Let me see if I can find it in my bookmarks real quick. Very important. And I didn't initially believe it at first, but it's, let me see if I can find it. My bookmarks have been cooked on X for some reason. X is so dog shit. Yes, a non-aggression pact via Moscow. Iran and Israel take a pause. This is January 14th. With tensions high, Israel and Iran secretly reassured each other via Russia. The two Middle Eastern countries exchanged messages through a Russian intermediary saying they would not preemptively attack each other. Iran and Israel, with Russia's mediation, agreed to refrain from mutual strikes, the publication reports, citing diplomats and officials in the region. At the end of December, Israel notified Tehran through a Russian channel that it would not strike Iran unless it was attacked first. In response, Iran also pledged to refrain from preventive actions. The agreement was reached amid Israel's preparations for a large-scale military campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Washington Post sources claim that Tehran received the signal positively, but with caution. So, while we're gearing up to bomb Iran, Israel and Iran, with a Russian intermediary, have agreed not to bomb each other preemptively. What does this feel like? What does this feel like exactly? Doesn't this feel like, oh, I don't know, like the same thing that happened during Soleimani? The Israelis backing out in the 11th hour, leaving us to hold the fucking bag. Isn't that what it feels like? We're gonna bomb Iran. We're gonna put boots on the ground. Americans will die while Israel has no part in it. If anything, it seems like they're gearing up to fight Hezbollah. That's their thrust. And Hezbollah has pledged that they would enter the war on the side of Iran. So we fight the big bad boss, and they fight the fucking like pawn. We fight the level 100 mafia boss, while Israel, they say we're doing our part, and they're fighting the level 1 crook. Wait a second, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel very fair. So we're on the cusp of this war that will bog us down. Thousands of people, of Americans, are probably going to die. And while Israel's secretly making these assurances with Iran that, yeah, we're not going to bomb you, actually. And Iran agrees, and Russia has a part in that. Does this feel right to anybody? Does this feel... So we're fighting a war, what it feels like, we're going to fight this war on behalf of Israel that Israel's not even going to partake in. Oh, what's up, M-Goat? California supremacy, okay. Are you guys even paying attention? Are you guys even fucking paying attention? Am I talking to a brick wall right now? teacher slap. YouTube is censoring me? What did you try to say? I feel like, dude, every day you're like, YouTube. What do you like? Just dropping N bombs? You're just dropping N bombs in YouTube chat. YouTube's out to get me, bro. Yeah, please start over. Yeah, I'll start over from the top. Stop complaining, Goy. Don't you mean Goyams? Don't you mean Goyams? Anyway. So yeah, it just feels like they are totally committed to this. And this will destroy the GOP. This will likely destroy Vance's prospects for 2028. He can cope and seethe. They might pivot to Rubio, which, funny enough, it seems like Rubio really, despite being, you know, a turbo Zionist, kind of like a neocon, he kind of handed us the only like tangible W from this administration, which was Venezuela. He still sucks, but isn't that kind of funny? Isn't that, who would have thought? They took out your G. Maybe you just keep, maybe you're always the G when you're building N towers, you know? Maybe that's why they figured you out. Like, this guy just loves the G's. He just loves being the G in the tower. We gotta censor him. According to the New York Times, this is 10 minutes ago, senior national security officials have told the president that any operation that aims to change the Iranian leadership is not guaranteed to be a success, the officials said. What does that mean? It means decapitation strike, unlikely to be successful. What does that leave us with? Something a lot more kinetic and drawn out. Okay. What are you guys even talking about? What are you guys even talking about, dude? You guys are spiking my fucking quarters all in chat. I'm over here talking about, like, you know, hey, we could be going to war as early as this weekend. You guys are like, what are you guys even fucking talking about? You guys are trying to build Goy towers? Okay. All right. Like, okay. Okay. I'm glad somebody's having fun. Yeah, so anyway, to get back on topic, it just Israel's not going to back down. They didn't come this far to back down in the 11th hour. This is like the prize. This is like the crowning jewel. This is like the final boss of their aspirations in the region is Iran. Once Iran's gone, like it's like smooth sailing for the most part. So just hating today. Why am I here? Just to suffer? Why am I here? Just to suffer? I consider Iran already gone. Probably. I think that, like, in terms of likelihood, it's probably likely that, you know, we beat Iran. At the very least, the country will be crippled. And even if we can't, if any kind of decapitation attempt is unsuccessful, they'll likely be neutralized. That's probably the most likely outcome. Now, if this momentary pause in enrichment, this 3-year pause does go through, and what Nick talked about this on his show last night, Israel's obviously not going to accept that. And because of that, Trump is unlikely to accept that because that comes with terms that state that they want a reintroduction, a reopening of their economy, a lift of sanctions. And if Iran is able to rebuild their economy, then it's kind of over. This maximum pressure campaign fails. And I think the window of opportunity completely closes for this kind of strike. Because then Iran would be too integrated with the rest of the world economy. It would be much harder, both because Iran would be more formidable, but also because it's likely they would have more formidable allies. And I think the will for this kind of operation would fade. I don't think you're going to have as much of an opportunity to conduct a strike 3 years from now than now. Now is the time, as far as Israel is concerned. They got this administration into power for this reason. You understand? They backed Trump for this specific reason, to bomb Iran. And we are now on the precipice of that. So I don't see them backing down. I think it's an inevitability at this point. So Israel doesn't have enough defensive missiles Patriot, Iron Dome. Well, yeah, I mean, let's see if Iran honors... Well, that's why, like, if Iran honors their agreement with Israel, then they're not even going to be firing missiles at Israel. Israel doesn't want to fight this war. They want America to fight this war. The U.S. won't give Israel intercept missiles because the U.S. needs them for their bases. Yeah. And so is sort of knowing that, that's kind of why Israel signed that non-aggression agreement, or maybe not signed, but agreed to it in secret. He doesn't deliver Butler 2.0. If he doesn't deliver, then whatever is being redacted in the Epstein files presumably would be released. Maybe it's not even that deep. If he doesn't deliver, then like he goes to jail because Democrats, they take the House and Senate, they impeach Trump, and then it's just kind of over. His whole legacy will be destroyed because if all of the Zionist Jewish money now turns on Trump and backs these Democrats, for example, and they make it a imperative that they impeach and eventually, let's say, imprison Trump, then Trump goes to jail forever. So it doesn't even without the Epstein files in play, Trump's cooked if he doesn't do that. Because the forces, so to speak, the interest groups kept him out of prison in the first place by handing him the presidency would turn against him. So it would be over for him. They don't even have to necessarily kill him. He would just go to jail, and probably his family too. And all of the graft that's going on inside this administration, all that corruption would be exposed, and everyone would be fucking going down. Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski, all the people at Mar-a-Lago, they're going to fucking jail for a very long time. And obviously they don't want that to happen. Obviously they don't want that to happen, so. They want, okay, yeah. That's what we're doing. We're just typing it in reverse. You had to put the parentheses so I know. Oh, it's in reverse. Like I couldn't figure that out. Okay. What are we doing? What are we doing here? War is also a debt jubilee. I don't even think it's necessarily about the debt. Yeah, I mean, some people will make a lot of money, but I think overall it would actually be pretty harmful for the US economy quite a bit. And I don't think that's good for investors in general. It's going to cost a lot of money. And I think that could scare some of the confidence of foreign investors if they think that the US dollar, because, who knows how much money we'll have to print to make up for that, if they think the US dollar is unstable. I was on Jewish news sites. They are pissed. Some are regretting voting for Trump because he is holding out on missiles. You can't please these people. Yeah, I mean, look, that's what they want, man. That was their sole purpose for supporting Trump. Let's actually do a little. Let's actually check in on old Ben Shapiro. Let's see how he's feeling about all of this. That's literally it, man. It's like he's bending over backwards to please them, and it's like, do you like no consideration for like, and you might not agree with Trump's position, but no consideration for the position Trump is in. Like, understand, they don't care, obviously, because they're not they're not partisan players. They care about their own cause the most. But any reasonable person could see why Trump would be apprehensive about this, because it would tank his political career, his legacy. It would be bad for America. It would be bad for Americans. It would be bad for the party. This would like secure easily Democrats at 2026 midterms, but likely also the 2028 presidential election. Obviously, they don't give a shit about that. But it's like, you know, does he have anything to say about this? I guess he doesn't want to bring it to Americans' attention. No recent remarks that we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. All right, so let's listen to Ben Shapiro about Epstein. And Ben Shapiro, who said that they were a hoax. Crazy. Did you guys see Trump on Black History Month /Century? I don't know what he said. Anyway. A president who ran for office promising to keep the United States out of wars, Mr. Trump is now considering what would be at least the 7th American military attack in another country in the past year, and his second in Iran. Last June, after striking 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Mr. Trump declared that Iran's nuclear program had been obliterated. But now he's considering sending U.S. military back to continue the job. But unlike the U.S.-Israeli assault last June, Mr. Trump's objectives are now or less clear. The U.S. military buildup includes dozens of refueling tankers, Russia the region, by United States Central Command, more than 50 additional fighter jets, and 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, complete with their accompanying destroyers, cruisers, and submarines, the U.S. officials said. The aircraft carrier USS Gerald I don't know, that's a tough one for me, I guess. Gerald R. Ford, fresh from the Caribbean, where it was part of the naval fleet pressuring the Venezuelan government of President Nicolas Maduro, was approaching Gibraltar on Wednesday as it made its way to join the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the region. The U.S. president, or the president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any other country around the world. Diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. Carolyn Leavitt, the White House press secretary, said on Wednesday. Did you see Tucker go to Israel because Trump told him to ease up on the moves? I saw he got detained. So after, because this was following his interview with Mike Huckabee. Okay, yeah, look at the blonde and thumbnail showing off her arms. Okay, nugget maxing. We're nugget maxing. Yeah, I think so, like some people are predicting like they'll shoot down or like they'll attack the Abraham Lincoln or something, an aircraft carrier. I don't think that's the most likely. I have a hard time believing that the US would put their Navy within striking distance of Iran's hypersonics or drones without proper countermeasures. We have, since 2019, we have directed energy weapons, or really, well, that's a fancy word for lasers, aboard destroyers and carriers. So it would be fairly difficult actually for hypersonic to strike, I think. Especially with the escort group, you've got several ships equipped with this high-powered laser technology that could very likely intercept those hypersonic missiles from far away. So I don't think it's actually likely that that's what would happen. I don't think, if there is a false flag, I think they would probably prefer a softer target. Because it's like, dude, if our aircraft carrier gets hit, what does that say about how this war is gonna go? If an aircraft carrier gets struck preemptively, how could at that point we even conduct a war in that region? That just says it's a grave miscalculation on our military's part. Like, they didn't think this through. They know what Iran is capable of for the most part, and we know what we're capable of, what we can intercept. So I have a hard time believing that, one of our aircraft carriers would get like preemptively hit when they're surrounded and we have all of this surveillance, all of this intelligence, and we get hit by one missile. If that's the case, why wouldn't they just sink our whole fucking fleet? And if they sink our whole fucking fleet, they probably would. And then how do we even conduct this operation to begin with? So I don't think that they're going to hit our Navy. And even if it were like a false flag, let's say from Israel, how are they going to conduct a false flag and not make it obvious when everyone's on high alert? We have all of this surveillance, satellite surveillance, drone surveillance, radar. I don't think they would hit our assets that we are using to conduct war. I think if anything that they would probably again hit a soft target in America, because they also need to get people to believe this is a just war. Otherwise, they're going to get fucking cooked. They know that. Trump knows that. The GOP knows that. And of course, Netanyahu knows this. I hate to say it, but it does feel like if I'm Mossad, because you have to consider that we are their seventh front war, that would give them the moral pretense that they so desire to make this intervention justified and to make it a reality for Americans. To get Americans to feel the fear, to feel the pressure, to buy into it. If they blow up some, metropolitan area in America and it's a mass casualty event and our news feeds are filled with billowing smoke and maybe hundreds or thousands of dead Americans, well, now it's real. If it's some fucking aircraft carrier that most people don't even want in the region, they're gonna say, who cares, or serves them right. Trump is already unpopular, so if Trump's Navy gets bombed, it's not going to be enough to sway public opinion. And I also think, consider this too, because you look at how they're consolidating media power, You look at how they're looking for a justification for greater censorship, really, and the real purpose of that is to put the kibosh on anti-Israel or anti-Semitic content out there. What better way to justify that than a national security crisis? A false flag, boom, terrorist attack, biggest terrorist attack ever. We got it locked down the internet because now it's real. How many people would go along with that? I think a lot more people would go along with that than, oh, they hit an aircraft carrier and most people don't give a shit about. I think that's how you get Americans on board with this. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, they're doing risk assessments. They don't want to false flag if they don't have to. They're not going to false flag if they don't deem it a necessity, because every time you do something like that, you stick your neck out. You run the risk of being compromised, of being exposed. So if they can conduct this war without something like that, I think that they would prefer to do that. So the last time stealth bombers hit Iran that came from Missouri, the bombers in Diego Garcia were never used. If an aircraft carrier got hit, say goodbye to the bond market. Yeah, what would that do to our security guarantee? If an aircraft carrier got hit, what would that do to the American empire? Oh shit, the American military is not that strong after all. Oh shit, how would China respond to that? Iran preemptively takes out a fucking aircraft carrier? That's... How would NATO respond to that? This is America's security guarantee. They get taken out by fucking Iran. That would shake all of the confidence of NATO and our allies. You know, who would benefit from that? Well, our enemies would. China, Russia. That would be a bad look. That would be a really bad look. And you're right. Yeah, I think the bond market would take a pretty big hit. JD Vance would also would also need to find a new job. Frankly, I already think it's cooked for JD, to be honest. I mean, shit, man. Another 2 years. That's 2 more years of boomers dying off. It's 2 more years of Zoomers and Gen Alpha. Well, I think Gen Alpha, yeah, being able to vote. And if they're all listening to Clavicular, if they're all pissed off about Israel, they're all listening to Nick Fuentes. They're gonna vote for some fucking subhuman shud that married an Indian woman. Like, I don't see that. Currently getting your hair cut. Yeah, you red pilling your barber right now. You red pilling your barber. I hope your barber isn't Jewish, otherwise he might chop your shit up, you know? He might be like, this fucking guy. He might fuck your shit up. He might cut in a big fucking bald patch, like right in the back of your head where you can't see it, just to fuck with you. This fucking guy. How's this for a preemptive strike? Chops off your fucking hair. Gives you a Brother Smelly cut. Brother Smelly! Haven't seen you in the monastery for a while. Yeah. So... Scary stuff. Scary stuff. I think it's inevitable, though. Israel's not going to back down. And the funny thing is, man, like Trump, it's kind of like what he does. There's like, if, and this is not going to happen, but let's just roll with it. If Trump told Israel to kick fucking rocks, you know, normalize relations with Iran, like he would already go down as like like a pretty great president. Despite all the bullshit we put up with, if he just told Israel to go fucking kick rocks, normalized relations with Iran, you know, he would go down as like one of the goats. But because he's not going to do that, he's going to go down as one of the worst. Ooh, Barbara, honest work? Yeah, you're right. Probably not. Uh, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Trump should give Bibi the Zelensky treatment. Well, I mean, not really, because that wasn't real. That wasn't real. We're still. Is the Ukraine war over? That was just trying to like appease like Putin and his ego. Look, we made fun of him. Now please end the war. Please come to some kind of term so we can focus our efforts on Iran and then China. It's also like no wonder like a Russian mediary would facilitate this deal between Iran and Israel, because then America is going to be really going in it alone. And that's obviously worse for us. This is like the equivalent of Ukraine. If like Russia is like, you know, like America, like Russia is to Iran what America is to Ukraine as far as proxy wars go. But I think this is going to be much more harmful to us than Ukraine was to Russia. Well, maybe not actually. But it's going to suck. Wait until she's done before you ask. Yeah, like check if your shit is chopped before. If your shit is chopped. Anyway, so I don't know if Nick is going to talk about this tonight. It'll be another victory lap. Oh, he also posted. Oh yeah. Another victory lap on the lack of mass deportations. Tim Pool is saying it's going to go down this weekend with Iran. Well, like I said, it's like, does this administration want to risk this resolution getting passed in Congress? Because then the window's shrinking. And it's likely going to happen during the weekend when people aren't paying attention. You know, as if it's really going to make that much of a difference. Like everyone's going to be talking about it. But it's probably going to happen on the weekend. And they are extremely concerned about the midterms, which are inching closer and closer. But this is a nice info. I wish this was higher resolution, but this is a nice little infographic of our force package in the region. We've got our two carrier groups. Yeah, 9 squadrons of carrier wing aircraft. Got a F-35 squadron, F-35C. Is it really C? F-35C? Oh, it's the B. Wait. Aren't the C's the cut down versions? F-18s. Unfortunately, like 25% to like a third of F-18s are strictly dedicated to refueling. It's such a waste of the airframe. Some Ospreys, Intel, Raptors and Chargers, MH-60. F-18s, more 18s. And we of our other strike assets. This is like so low res, dude. I wish this person uploaded it at higher res. F-22s. Just put our initials in the back. Yeah, she shaved the Star of David into the back of his head. They have the same initials. What is it? GOY? Anyway. Yeah, now everyone's talking about Iran. Everyone's talking about Iran now. For the Epstein class. Just say it, bro. Just say it. Epstein class? Just say it, dude. Just fucking say it, you pussy. Dude, everyone's clowning on Richard Spencer. As you guys see this, Richard Spencer has been mushroom Swiss burger maxing. Dude, a few years ago, back when I think like, remember when the link in bio shit was going on? Chungus, yeah. War with Iran is no win. If we lose, the economy gets tanked. If we win, Israel is free and clear to dominate the Middle East. Yeah, it's cooked. It's absolutely cooked. It's not in our interests. We are not the beneficiaries of this war. Is that real? Unfortunately, Richard Spencer has fallen. Anyway, back in when I had it bookmarked, but I guess it's gone now because X fucking sucks and likes to delete my bookmarks. Dog shit website. But like back when like all like the OnlyFans hoes were like spamming everything with link in bio. Like Richard Spencer posted a screenshot. He said the discourse on X. And sandwiched between two whores saying link in bio was some guy saying, "Hey Richard, buy a jaw trainer off of Amazon, you fat fuck." It was like, oh shit, I wish I still had that. Fuck, it was so good. Buy a jaw trainer off of Amazon, you fat fuck. Link in bio. That's kick. Ugh. Anyway.
Not gonna conform to societal
This is rage
standards and obligations. I don't have to do that. You know?
Yeah.
I'm too famous for that. All right. So fuck you in your showers. That's a cope. That's the Matrix, man.
The shower is the shower.
Dude, that's the Matrix. I swear to God, no one wants to talk about it.
Neo never showered.
But every motherfucker, yeah, literally, they didn't even have them. Every motherfucker is out here thinking I have to shower. According to who?
Yeah, you have to shower every day, even if you didn't sweat.
Literally, who gave you that idea?
If people are not literally telling you stink like shit every day, you don't need to shower.
Yeah, exactly. And the girls,
but you have to make sure it's not because they're being nice. You know?
Yeah. It's like the girls literally said on that stream that I didn't smell bad after 4 days. You know?
Wait, was she one of them?
What?
Which girls was it that said you smell good?
That was the promoters.
Yeah, you can't be fat, bro. It's hard to be like a white nationalist or what, like a white supremacist or whatever, and be fat. You know, that's just like, that's just self-defeating. It's like no one's gonna take you seriously.
But dude, I simply like am not gonna.
The war's burst. It's like, okay, you. You know, get this under control first. Get this under control. You know.
What color is your Bugatti this? What color is your Bugatti that? To be honest with you, bro, no one gives a fuck. How many sisters are your fucking Bidel? They call you top G for what? To me, you're the fucking top chud. Top G.
Mocked by the ASU frat leader once again.
He said you wanted my fucking phone number. What color is your Bugatti this? What color is your Bugatti that?
It is kind of crazy, bro. Like,
to be honest with you, bro, no one gives a
his frame is so wide, he looks like a fucking Roblox character.
fuck. How many sisters are your fucking Bidel?
Bro's looking like a Roblox character. Good physique, though. Probably work on his traps a little bit, though. Bro, once again, people are posting like censored pornography videos, trying to pass it off as Epstein. Part of the Epstein files, like, dude. Like Ryan Dawson, you see that? Like, not once but twice was posting just censored pornography. Like, how do these people have? You know, like, you know how mortifying that should be for any person to get something so fucking wrong. Like, these people are so shameless. They'll just, like, they're either too lazy to actually do the fact checking or they'll just fucking lie. Like, people like Ryan Dawson should not be taken seriously by anybody. And it makes it difficult to have, like, a real conversation.
Approaching the moon surface.
The moon surface? Hold on a second. Is this a moon landing or a demo of the new Galaga? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding the premise here.
India has become now the 4th country to land a spacecraft on the moon.
Bro, unironically, I think India's India's moon landing was faked. I think India's moon landing was faked. His shirt is too low. Nah, that's just how they make them. One of like those
So fucking creative that they couldn't sit in class because whatever people were trying to put in their head, they knew it was fucking bull. And then you got the F students. The F students are inventors. They're so fucking creative that they couldn't sit in class because whatever people were trying to put in their head, they knew it was.
India is going after Russia's shadow fleet. What is India doing? To Russia's shadow fleet.
Go on your way down. There you go. Come on, Junkie. Come on. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Go on your way down. There you go. Come on, Junkie. Come on. Almost there, almost there, almost there, almost there. Go on your way.
Snatching oil. Did they intercept their fleets? A map showing the movement of Russian crude oil tankers. The majority of Russian tankers are seen heading to China, which is an entirely different picture from just a few months ago, when the majority of Russian crude could arrive in India on large discounts, notably the Jamnagar refinery. Under US pressure, India has almost halved Russian imports from 2 million barrels per day. Trump told India not to buy. Yeah, and I remember India was upset about that. You know, Modi put out some rebuttal saying, "Well, you're not putting Europe under those same pressures." kind of made Trump look kind of weak. Despite the massive discounts on Russian crude, India has submitted to the U.S. pressure, and in return, China is using the rerouted cheap Russian oil to fill the gaps of the lost Venezuelan crude. Europe doesn't have a bunch of unmarked vessels sitting off their coast like India. Are you saying that they're actually intercepting their oil tankers? Interesting. Where'd you hear that? I'm seeing that they have their imports. That's pretty fucking embarrassing for Russia if that is true. Like, dude. Can you fucking imagine? India's boss. India is bullying you. Fucking India. Can you imagine? Peter Zeihan? Let's see. Yeah. India's Navy has begun seizing Shadow Fleet tankers in its exclusive economic zone. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey everybody, Peter Zeihan here, coming to you from Colorado. I have kind of a weird one for you today. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal today confirming information that was originally released
from the Wall Street Journal,
the Indian Navy's Twitter account that was then subsequently deleted, that the Indian Navy has been carrying out raids and capturing shadow vessels in India's exclusive economic zone starting almost 2 weeks ago on February 5th.
2 weeks ago.
Backstory. The Shadow Fleet is a group of roughly 1,000 oil tankers that carries crude for sanctioned countries, most notably Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. And apparently the ships, 3 ships that the Indians have so far grabbed, come from some combination of those 3, with the Russians absolutely involved. The United States, after it captured the now former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has gone after the parts of the Shadow Fleet that were actively carrying.
These vessels are unarmed. It's not a huge flex. The flex is not that they're taking over the ship. It's the fact that Russia's shit is getting messed with by India. That's like what's embarrassing. The fact that like India is just taking your shit, even if it's unarmed, like that's the point, because it's a Shadow Fleet. It's inconspicuous. But like Russia can't really do anything about it but fucking see, because they can't admit that they have this Shadow Fleet, even though everybody knows about it. What are they gonna do? They're gonna go after India for seizing the stuff that they said isn't their stuff to begin with? Like, oh, that's
Venezuelan crude at the time, chasing them up on their way to Europe.
Well, the Wall Street, it's probably real.
Have been captured so far. 8 out of 1,000 is not a lot, but when the world's naval superpower decides it wants to do something on the high seas, it's really not hard for the United States to do it, and now it appears that the Indians are getting in on the act as well. This is really interesting from my point of view for 3 reasons. Number one, once another country joins the United States in targeting the Shadow Fleet, it's probably only a matter of days to weeks before many, many other countries do it. There are a lot of countries that don't like Venezuela or Iran or Russia, especially the Europeans, and now that India, of all countries.
And here's what a lot of people also need to understand. You know, and I'm not a fan of this, but there is a reason why, for example, we have such a big, like, Indian immigrant or visa population here in America. Beyond just the cheap labor, there are geostrategic incentives as well. We want India in our corner, really, against China. Because China and India share a border, and India is a nuclear power and has a lot of access to the ocean, which is kind of crazy when you think about how like if we take a look at a map, it's pretty incredible how awful India is. Even though like when you look at where they're positioned, it's actually kind of overpowered. Like a lot of trade goes right through there. You'd think India would have become an empire with all of that. They have such a huge coastal region. Yet it is just like an unmitigated shithole. Anyway, that's a whole nother issue. But that's so much of our like budding alliance with India is to position India against China and to pressure China and to a lesser extent Russia, as we're seeing now. But yeah, this is really embarrassing for Russia.
Is joining in, we should expect a couple of dozen other countries to do so as well, which would completely remove the Shadow Fleet from functioning in less than a few months. Considering that
we should do it if they have a navy
transported in this matter, that can have a really big impact economically or politically based on who decides to take advantage of the situation. That's one. Number two, the fact that the Indians are involved. India has been the second largest beneficiary of the Shadow Fleet since it really started getting going in the early days of the Ukraine war back in 2022. Basically what happens is someone affiliated with Russia or around Venezuela goes out and buys a decommissioned oil tanker that probably doesn't match current safety norms, gives it a fake insurance policy, puts a fake flag on it, and sends it to pick up the crude from one of those three countries. That crude then comes somewhere in the high seas where it comes up against another shadow vessel, and they pump the crude from one to the other in a C2C transfer. Relatively dangerous, but these guys are busting sanctions anymore, so that's not their primary concern. That then happens once, twice, three times more. Maybe they mix two crudes into another hold or something. Anyway, eventually another shadow vessel.
Many analysts have said that India is overpowered if they chose to use it. Use what? They could literally choke China's oil.
Disgorges that.
Or are you talking about their navy? They've been building up their navy, but I think India has a real competency crisis.
Cargo in a purchasing country, typically India and China. And the Indians and the Chinese say, oh, we have no idea where it came from. It's just a convenient fiction. It's just a question of who decides to enforce maritime law. Well, like I said,
and that probably would be, again, one of the pressure points that we would put on China. We would try to get, because you're already seeing that play out. And the mere fact that they have to use a shadow fleet, for example, Russia, that is, and the sanctions that are coming in trying to block China's access to oil, we very much want India to get involved in that. And if this is an opportunity for them to enrich themselves, just straight up, take some of Russia's oil, then that would be their incentive. Not the Navy, the waterway around India used for global trade. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm getting at. Like the fact that India wasn't an empire says a lot about how incompetent they are. Like, let's just look at this for a second. Okay, like first of all, look at their coastal region. Look at how much trade moves through, around the Gulf. Like this is the bridge connecting the three world islands, and they're right here. You have access to Asia, or East Asia to the east, access to the Middle East and Africa to your west. It's like the only thing that prevented India from being like a global superpower empire are Indians. Like, seriously, dude. Your subcontinent literally juts straight through into the trade routes. Like, are we serious right now? Look at this shit. Look at your borders and look at the percentage of your borders that are coastal. Like, bruh. The only empires or countries that have ever grown to be global empires are ones that have access to water, have access to the oceans, that have ports. Because that effectively gives you access to the rest of the world, right? The most powerful empires that have existed, think United Kingdom, where they're an island. Great Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, even the Roman Empire. They, even Germany, for example. The Ottoman Empire. Even the Arab conquest. All China, Japan, all had access to the oceans, and India has enormous access to it. Crazy. Chico's race is calling Jeets dumb. Gotta give India every advantage. Yeah. Yeah, they had all the geological advantages. Crazy. You know, they could have gotten oil from the Indies. They could have gone westward if they needed oil. Literally, you'd think they would have expanded. And, you know, obviously Pakistan is a new development, but it's wild, man. India would unironically be better off under colonial rule. And they were better off under the British. Undeniably. Will curse speaker, yeah. I pissed off Vishnu. My days are numbered. I will rue the day I pissed off Vishnu. Yeah. It's just fucking crazy, dude. Just look at this. You would think, if you didn't know anything about anything, history or geopolitics or whatever, you would just think, like, location-wise, this shit's crazy. Actually crazy. I'm a bloody bastard. You bloody bastard, you. Fuck you, bloody. Bro, they've had like what, 150, 200 years to learn English and they still can't fucking speak it. Crazy. Dude. Replace the U with an O. Still seething about the Goy. Dude. Wild. The United States, we should just own the fucking world, dude. We should just own the world. Most people would be better off if we just owned them. You know, if we just owned their countries. If we're gonna pretend like Nigeria has the power of sovereignty, yeah, I don't think so. Anyway.
India is one of the big beneficiaries here, and historically has been the second largest beneficiary of this process. And so for them to go out and grab ships in their own economic zone, who have been doing these C2C transfers for 4 years now, to break that policy changes the economics of the shadow fleet and the politics of India very, very deeply. A couple of things here. Number one, India has always been pro-Russian versus pro-American, and has sided with the Russians because of the affiliation they had with them back during the Soviet period. Soviet Union went away. Modern Russia has nothing to do with the Soviet Union, but the Indians kind of are still fighting the Cold War ideologically from a certain point of view. So them flipping matters. Second, because these are Russian vessels that have Russian flags, having the Indians go against a Russian situation so boldly is really, really notable. It's also been 11 days since this happened, and the idea that it just happened once for 3 vessels is kind of curious. I don't understand why the Indian Navy posted this. I do understand why they tore it down right away, because this is the sort of thing that will reverberate through the shadow fleet very, very dramatically, because if their ships are being confiscated and captains are losing their vessels, the entire capital investment is lost.
It's just like so long before it's just like so Indian. Like, no, zero OPSEC. They just have to gloat about it.
Basically throw in the towel.
Typical.
Or enough of them are grabbed that it changes the economics of shipping this stuff. So all of that combined.
India #1.
Is number 2. A lot going on there.
Just
number
can't help
3,
it.
Russia. The Russians have been exporting somewhere between 3 and 4 million barrels a day this way for 4 years, and it is their primary source of income now. And if this is about to go away, then we're going to see some very dramatic changes in a number of things in the Eastern Hemisphere. Number one, the Ukraine war. If the Russians have lost their single largest source of income, that will manifest on the battlefield. The Chinese may be supplying the Russians with all the gear that they can pay for, but the key thing there is pay for. And if the Russians can't, then a drone war where the Russians can't get enough drones is one where the Russians start losing territory. And we've seen just in the last 96 hours how when the Russians lose communication equipment, they start to lose coherence on the front line and can no longer advance. This would be far more dramatic. 2, if the Americans and the Indians are seen eye to eye on things like the Russians, those are 2 big changes. I'm going to talk about India, but about the United States. There are a number of people within the Trump administration who have been blatantly pro-Russian this entire conflict. But now
people like Tucker Carlson. That is bizarre, dude. A little spooky. There is a real Russian propaganda network that is going on right now in the American right wing, and I think it includes Tucker Carlson. I think it obviously includes Andrew Anglin. It includes Ron Unz and a lot of people he's affiliated with on his website. And I even think Candace Owens is. I think she's a Kremlin asset, really. Not an agent, but an asset. I think they're very pleased with how the Candace Owens op has been going. You love Pakistan though. Isn't Pakistan? Don't they have like the highest rates of like, what is it? Incest in the world? Like the highest rates of inbreeding, rather. It's a little more specific. Like 60% or some crazy shit. Is that Indian propaganda? They do have like Pakistani rat people. That's a real thing. But also India's super inbred too. There's a lot of inbreeding going on in that part of the world, to be honest. Gross. Tucker, Anglin, Bannon, Posobiec. I don't know what Bannon's been saying on Russia recently. But it's funny how it seems like a lot of people are trying to throw Bannon under the bus for this Epstein shit. But Posobiec I haven't really paid attention to be honest. I feel like those guys who got busted for planning on colonizing that African island. What are we talking about? Russia, India, China Fight Club is on your 2026 bingo card. Man. And India just sucks, bro. What's best for humanity? I think like India coming out on top is probably the worst thing for humanity in general. Like, I think I would, if I had to choose, I would choose to be ruled over by Chinese bugmen rather than Indian poo men. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine. Did you see the clip of those, like that Indian university that were blatantly lying? They went to this AI conference and they bought these drones, like these commercial drones you can buy, a few $100s. One was Chinese, the other was Korean, and they tried to pass it off as their own invention. Did you see that shit? Like, the lack of awareness, the fact you thought you could get away with this. You can go up on like fucking Temu and look up the drone that they bought and try to play off like it was their own creation. Like, you know how fucking delusional you'd have to be so stupid to even think that people would believe that. And then when they got caught, they say they put out a statement saying, we condemn the negativity that people are putting out there. What the fuck? So you double down, you get caught lying, you get caught with, you know, in a series of lies, and you just say, you guys are the problem. You guys are being negative. Insufferable. In-fucking sufferable. If you were a cheat, bro, there's not a day that I am alive where I don't, there's not a day that I'm alive where I don't think that I'm not, I'm not thankful that I'm not Indian. Seriously. Man. Sobek has been pretty quiet since Bannon has been associated with Jeff Epstein. He's really interesting. You should hear them cope about India. They will honestly tell you how great it is all the time, man. All the time. India #1. India supremacy. And then they say, okay, we don't want Indians here. They say, please let us stay silent. Please. It's like, get the fuck out of here. I do kind of feel bad if like you're a chill Indian person, and they do exist, obviously. I know some of them. It's like, dude, imagine your life must like, this kind of shit must drive you fucking crazy. Seeing like you're getting a bad rap because you know, your ethnic kin, that's rough. I know a guy, he's pretty ashamed of being Indian. I'm like, damn, that's rough. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Appears that might be changing. One of the fun things that happened about 3 weeks ago is we had a summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And Trump said at the end of their meetings, like, the United States was going to drop its tariffs by more than half to allow Indian products back in the United States. And in exchange, the Indians were going to stop using Russian crude. The Indians said, thank you, Mr. Trump, for the tariff withdrawal, but not a single Indian government person, statement, post has ever said anything about not using Russian crude until now. And apparently now it looks like maybe less than 2 weeks after that.
No, they did say something a few months ago. When Trump told India to stop buying oil from Russia, they said, but you're not saying the same thing to Europe. They pulled that card. You know, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be bullied by it. That's essentially what Modi said.
Summit, the Indians started going after Russian tankers. So maybe Trump really did get a deal, just the Indians are doing it a little bit on the down low, but now that they're actually confiscating tankers, it's not very down low anymore. And if you have the Indians stabbing the Russians in the back, and the Americans and the Indians now starting to get along on economic and strategic matters, that changes all the economics and the politics and the strategy of everything in South Asia, because the United States has reasonable relations with Pakistan. It's been India that's been clinging onto the Soviet era. If that's no longer the case, if Russian influence has really been purged, then we've entered into a fundamentally new era. And if the
Well, you also can't ignore how, let's be honest for a second, this does play a part. Look at the Indian diaspora and how it's embedded itself in the West. Look at who the second lady of the United States is. Like, that actually does matter. That's not a non-factor. Look at people like Vivek Ramaswamy. You know, look at, you know, some of these leaders, like in the UK, for example. What's his name? Like Rishi Sunak, for example. So, like, clearly the Indian diaspora is further embedding itself in the West. And so in many ways, India sees the West, not as an extension per se, but because they have so much personnel in positions of influence, the interests are now beginning to align. That matters. You know, Modi, on paper, you can look this up, said that he is inspired by the Zionism model. And he has similar aspirations for the Indian diaspora to go out into the world, into these other countries, embed themselves there, help each other out through ethnic nepotism for the sake of India and Indians around the world. That is real. I'm not making that up. You can look at it. He directly cited the Jewish diaspora as inspiration for that. That should raise red fucking flags. That is clearly like a national security concern if you have people in your country that are not loyal to your country. It's a no-brainer. But are specifically, they are organized and share this ethnic kinship with one another, and that's primarily going to benefit some other fucking country. They gotta go, man. Yeah, Leo Varadkar, yeah, it's another example. I guess Trump whispered what he meant if Modi was slow to get it. Yeah, so I'm telling you, yeah, it's gross. Whole thing is gross.
Are stopping crude from Russia getting to India. You can bet your pretty ass that they're going to stop it from getting to China, because now China is the only country that is still taking Russian crude in volume. And now all of a sudden we're talking about the entirety of the 3 to 4 million barrels of the shadow fleet being gouged out of the Chinese economy. Now, a lot of this is a couple steps removed from what we know right now. I don't want to say that all of this is destined to happen, but you remove that much crude from the system all at once and the whole system feels it. You remove it all from one country's system all at once, and that country is fucked. So we're looking at a broad structured rearrangement of things in Russia and Ukraine and India and China, perhaps all at once. The question is whether or not the foreign policy team in Washington can actually hold that together, considering how much they've purged the decision-making apparatus in the State Department, the national security apparatus, and in the military. This is a lot to hold in your head all at once. But if we are moving in that direction, we are looking at the single biggest shift in international politics of at least the last 4 years. And that will keep me very busy for months to come.
Not to mention, you know, if this war explodes in Iran, what would that do to the Russian shadow fleet that's passing through the region as well around the Gulf? That could give the U.S. the pretense it's looking for to seize those tankers, which, we've already been doing. But then what path does Russia then take? They're going to have to go around, maybe around the Arctic Circle or around Africa to get their So just think about the increase, just baseline, the increase in logistic costs to just move their product over to China. And that's another reason why the Arctic Circle is so important to a lot of these countries, because all this ice is melting. It's going to open up new shipping routes. Then at that point, Russia could realistically just go the other way, rather than going around Europe, through the Mediterranean, and finally into the Indian Ocean and around up to China. They could more reliably go the other way. So. Kind of cooked. Who knows? Maybe they'll invest in like a greater pipeline infrastructure or something. What's up, SSB? Why am I watching Peter Zeihan? This guy's terrible. Hippocratic Oath mentioned a source that he was talking about. This is X. This is on X. Gonna be rich. Yeah, I mean, that is a silver lining. If that is happening, we could see an uptick in like domestic oil production as well. Global oil prices goes up, production goes up in America. I think it's something like $60 or $80. I don't remember the exact number. If the price of oil falls below that per barrel, production stops in America. Just stops. So, because it's no longer profitable in many of these refineries. Depends on the refinery, of course, but yes. He's quoting a story from the Wall Street Journal. According to, Oscar Groiper, schizoid prediction, there will be a USS Liberty-style attack on the carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, and by the time anyone can prove it is done by Israel or war with Iran, will be well underway or completed. I actually, like, for the reasons why I disagree with this, for reasons I've stated previously, I don't think this is likely. Like, if Iran could do it, if it's a false flag, like how are they going to false flag it exactly when you've got a whole carrier group in the region and it's under constant surveillance? That's actually a very difficult thing to do. Like, Israel can't just like instant transmission teleport a fucking missile into the USS Liberty, or not the USS Liberty, into the Abraham Lincoln or one of the carrier groups. I actually think this is unlikely. It's possible they're in the region. But where would they launch it from? Inside Iran or one of its proxies? I just think that would be such... That doesn't make fucking sense from Israel's perspective. Why would they take out the strike package that they want to bomb Iran? If they take out a carrier group, that's like half of our air power. Or not half, but we got air bases there. But that's a significant portion of our air power that we're using to fight their war for them. There are a cruiser or a single destroyer or whatever, but a carrier? Not to mention, it's unlikely that would happen. We have very advanced missile interception systems, high-powered lasers that have been deployed publicly since 2019 on our carrier groups. Frat guy's distracting? Sorry. I think Nick is going live anyway. Yep. Countdown on wartime and the collapse of mass deportations. Get ready for another victory lap from Nick. It's gonna be, oh, you already know what it's gonna sound like. Well. Fell for it again award. Fell for it again award. You fell for it because you are stupid. You already know what tonight's show is gonna be like. commercial airliner. No, for reasons I think, and who knows what, it's all contingent on what they think they can get away with and what they think is would be the most effective. But I'd be very concerned about a domestic operation, a soft target in America. Again, I'm just repeating what I said earlier, but I think they know how unpopular this war would be, and so they really need to create a pretense that is personal and believable for the American people, because it's political suicide. This war is otherwise political suicide. I don't think people are really going to give a shit if they take out a military hard target far away from America. Most people would probably cheer that on. They'd be like, serves them right. They'd be like, this is what you get for that, you know? But if fucking, I don't know, New York City or they probably, but like Chicago blows up and, you know, like thousands of people die, some dramatic, unprecedented attack. And it scares everybody. Could we be next? Could it be my town next? And that would give them the pretense for mass censorship, which they're moving into position. They're, you know, Paramount Skydance merger. Now they're trying to acquire Warner Bros. They're hoping they can get that in time so they can just bombard the airwaves with their propaganda, you know, lobby Congress to pass like the Patriot Act 2.0. And then you can't even criticize the war. You can't even criticize Israel because it would be a threat to national security. I think that is the question is, could they get away with that? Because again, I just attacking our strike package, like that's just counterintuitive. And I'm not saying they necessarily wouldn't do it, but I don't see how that's the best option. They're going to blow up our military assets that would be used like imminently to bomb their number one adversary, which is what they wanted all along. Why would they do that? Even if they fire a couple missiles that get intercepted, I mean, maybe. Like, let's say they false flag our group by shooting missiles, and then Iran would likely deny that it was them anyway. Do we just choose not to believe them or say that we don't believe Iran in the first place? It's possible. But I just don't feel like that's very compelling to begin with. But and like unprecedented terrorist strike on American soil, that also paints our enemies as being like dishonorable, untrustworthy, and irrational. And that's what they've been trying to do this whole time. You know, they're trying, you know, these are radical Islamic fundamentalists. They can't be trusted. They're irrational. They're terrorist radicals. They you can't even bother. Don't even try rationalizing with them. And I think something like an attack on civilians would sort of, they would hope that would prove that point. So, did you see Sneeko beefing GG33 in the middle of the street? I saw that on mute. I didn't watch the clip though. Sneeko was with Fishback. Yeah, I didn't even talk about Fishback today. Thankfully, Nick won't be posting guys wearing low shirts. Why? You distracted him, Goat? Trump tried to get everybody on board with Israel, but Tucker got detained. I don't think there'll be major consequences for that. Paris Gilage. 3 Mexican show starting. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That's a whole other topic I didn't get into. But yeah, when it comes to Fishback, it's very interesting because it's going to come down to because Nick endorsed Fishback. And it was one that was done in Sneeko's chat. Like Sneeko asked him, do you endorse Fishback? Because Nick was watching the stream and Nick responded, yes. So the question is will Fishback disavow? Because he's going to come under attack for that. And I think that's part of the sort of test, we're testing, Nick is testing the waters, seeing how Fishback responds. But there's a lot of utility because it's if Fishback can win, maybe, and understand what I'm saying, it doesn't matter as much if he is just a purely self-interested political operator. What message that sends is that this platform wins. The Groyper platform wins. And you will see a market shift in strategy from the GOP, even if Fishback turns out to be a dud, which I hope he doesn't. I hope he's the real deal. But now more than ever, we really need to be careful of skin suiting. We don't want to end up like, the Tea Party. We've seen this happen time and time again. So we need to be on high alert and do our due diligence. And we also don't want to wear the fell for it again pin, It would really suck if, like America First endorses Fishback and he turns out to be like a total traitor or whatever. That would suck. That would suck because it sets us back an entire election in Florida and however many years that is. But it also hurts the credibility of Nick and the movement. The flip side of that is, if Fishback's team is entirely Groyper infiltrated, well, it kind of makes it difficult for him to not, follow an America First agenda if all of his personnel are America First. It also matters who he selects for his actual, governor team. Well, if he wins, not just his campaign team. That matters too. But for his own political ambitions, if you look at sort of the options, Fishback is probably a guy who, if you went the other route of like the sort of Peter Thiel, that contingent of the right wing, it's oversaturated. Even if he's like strictly self-interested, which probably is the case, and he just wants to further his political career, he stands out much better from the rest of the pack by taking this America First position. He's making waves because of this, because he's not backing down on this stuff, because he's taking it there. He put on the blue NJF America First hat, and I think that's been a big boost to his relevancy. Okay, next game start here. I don't really want Casey Puch to lose to Vivek Ramaswamy, but that is the likely outcome. Yeah, I don't either, but again, there's so much money behind Vivek. And Nick spoke about that. It might be better if Vivek loses in the general. It might be better if he wins the nominee and loses in the general, because that sends a message. I think obviously it's better if Casey Puch wins everything, but that's just probably not a likely case, because even if he wins the primary, it's unlikely he'll win the general. And that kind of makes it look bad if we get an America First candidate that loses the general election. That's kind of an unfortunate, it's kind of an unfortunate way to look at it, but you have to look at it that way to some degree. This sort of reality, the optics, and sort of, yeah. Anyway, good night, everyone. This was like a bonus stream. I wasn't planning on doing it, but you guys enjoyed. Anyway, enjoy your free Mexican show, and take care.